So what's I about? I guess we'll just start with this. Oh shit. Holy shit!
Computer hack is what I'm doing.
Yes.
If I say do as if you've never seen me, or try to blow them away.
Just blow them away.
Dress is irrelevant. Oh, I'm coming back down to slaughter.
Holy shit. Just kill him, bro.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Genuinely, probably the best $10 I think I've ever spent. I will give
It's
it
pretty
that
good.
much.
Watch out, dude, because there's guys behind us. Oh, I just ate a rocket. What the fuck is this, Ryan? Please.
Oh, okay, we're not killing that thing. There's simply no way
What is it?
Bro, that's probably what it looked like when that shit hit the ground.
Bro, it did not hit the ground that slow.
Imagine
They
being
probably,
in, like, the...
dude, the people. Oh my goodness, what did you just hit, bro?
I know, it said you've been killed by a mysterious thing.
I Divine Cybermancy is probably the strangest and best cyberpunk game I've ever had the pleasure of playing. And though it does have its flaws, I mean, some of them are pretty apparent. You'll see buildings hovering above the ground a little bit sometimes, or maybe the dialogue isn't translated well. I think the fact that the whole game was built on the Source engine, the same engine that gave us Half-Life 2 and CSGO, is an absolute testament to the quality and care that the devs wanted to put into this game. But before we get into the gameplay, all the meat and potatoes, let's cut back and talk about the story. And don't worry, spoilers will be at the end. So in I, you play as essentially a cyber monk techno warrior sided with the Secreta Secretorium, a guild of other psionic soldiers that are backed by mega corporations throughout the solar system and New Eden. The main war seems to be between three major factions. You've got the Federation, which are basically a kind of military-esque faction. The Looters, which are just your basic bandits and people trying to get by, surviving in these mega cities. And the Metastronomic Force, which are some kind of like bug, tyrannid, kind of like demonic enemy. The main enemy you'll be seeing in the beginning of the game are going to be the Federation and Looters that like to roam around and pick fights with each other and sometimes make corrupt, shady deals. But later on, the Metastronomic Force become a lot more prevalent. They're fucking pissed. They're just trying to kill us now. The game has a lot of emphasis on the return after death. You aren't just dying. In fact, you were never even playing to begin with. Every time you die, you wake up to the same dream to find out that your whole experience you had before death was actually just a psionic vision of one of the outcomes of your death. And since you died in it, you have now reawoken to try a different route. The missions you play in, the people you talk to, everyone is all a part of your predicted vision of the future, and characters will ask you things that you won't know, but it makes sense because your character doesn't know them either. Because every time you die in-game, you also lose a piece of your memory, your character will. Initially losing it in the beginning of the game, in this cave that you were sent to explore with your team, to try and recover an ancient alien artifact belonging to the race who originally made the Metastronomic Force. The psionic energy that the members of the Secreta use is a part of that force too, and it's shown that some people have a better control over it. Now, whether that's through some form of like enhanced training, or if some people are simply born better, isn't told, but it is shown that the metastronomic force is almost like a living thing. It's connected to the universe, like some sort of Lovecraftian entity, that while not being outright seen or viewed in any way, it can influence reality, matter, people's minds, and most importantly, dreams, which is a very big piece of the story, is having that reoccurring dream every time that you fail. That's everything on the story side of things, leaving out spoilers, no naming characters or plot points that are too heavy. So now let's move over to the gameplay side of things. And in my opinion, I think gameplay can be one of the finer aspects of a game. Usually, even if a game has an unfinished, boring, or lackluster story, the gameplay can still hold it up if it's good enough. And while I still has an amazing story, not everyone's going to look for all those hidden details that you really have to search for. But even if you don't, you can still have a great time. And you can really see where they took inspiration from 40K with the weapons. Like this sword called the Damocles, where when you hit people with it, it causes a psionic blast and just straight up blows them up. And don't even get me started on how good it feels to use the TRK AD heavy sniper to just annihilate anything on the battlefield with AP rounds. But when you first start and you make your character, you'll get to pick 3 DNA types from the 9 available. And while I won't go over all 9 of them because they each do somewhat different things, some of them are a little bit similar, but most of them are clear-cut and different. They essentially filter you down into 3 different categories, either melee, sniper, or like ranged class, and a psionic support. If you're doing melee, then you get tankier. If you're doing ranged, then you'll do more damage with guns, but you'll be less tanky. And if you're doing psionic support, you'll be better at hacking and also using your psionic abilities, but you will be weaker when it comes to melee or shooting. It's also worth mentioning that when you make your character, you're going to have to roll for your stats. Now you can re-roll as much as you want, but the highest you can get is a Metastrom times 3, which puts all your stats in the green. There aren't that many major drawbacks, although I did notice that when I was focusing ranged, later on in the game there were a lot more sections where I needed to hack things, and if you don't have a high enough hack skill, the AI will be able to hack you quicker, because the hacking is sort of a mini game. It's almost like a turn-based, you'll attack or defend or use one of your abilities, and then the AI will do the same. It's almost like a real-time turn-based strategy. But the AI, if they have a higher hacking skill, they'll hack quicker, and they can get through your firewall easier. So I would say that the only major drawback to the late game would be having a really low hacking stat, because it's going to be hard to get into some of those doors. It's going to be hard to hack those bank dispensers to get a little extra money. But if you decide, if you're sitting there thinking, well, what is better, ranged or melee? Well, when I was playing with my friend, he went melee and I went ranged, and we were both killing just about the same. So you can really use whichever, and if you stick with that playstyle, you'll be able to put down just about any enemy in the game. I do think the hacking could have been done better, because while initially, like, the novelty of being able to hack so many things was really interesting, because you can really hack almost anything. Doors, you can possess people through hacking, you can hack other players in multiplayer games, you can hack terminals, you can hack bank dispensers, you can hack sentries. Almost anything in the game can be hacked. But once you play with it for a while and you really get a feel for it, you can kind of see that the AI tends to default to always taking the easiest route, and you can bait them by, like, let's say if my defense stat is higher than their attack stat, the AI will consistently try to raise its attack stat to get over my defense stat, or use an ability to just lower my defense stat. So then it locks us into a basically war of attrition, where they're lowering my attack stat or my defense stat, and I'm raising it over and over, back and forth, until one of us gains enough ground to basically inflict an attack on the other and reduce their HP until they're hacked. When you're going around an eye, you'll get two different kinds of currency for killing enemies and completing tasks. You'll get experience, which will of course go to your level and level you up, which will give you skill points to allocate to your different traits, such as hacking, accuracy, strength, psi, energy. But you'll also gain bruise-offs. Bruise-offs are the in-game currency, which can be spent either at the Temple HQ to purchase new abilities or weapons, or in the Research tab, because as you kill enemies, they will have a chance to drop a briefcase, and these briefcases can contain items that are hidden, and you can spend your bruise-offs to research them. It'll take anywhere from a few hours to a few days. Now that's really with quotations, because as you're walking around you may be doing a research that says it'll take 7 days, but it'll be done in one mission, because time is sped up a lot more in game. I believe the time that it takes for a research to complete is actually tied to the in-game tick rate. So as you go throughout missions, you'll unlock these upgrades, and they can do anything from upgrade your armor, give you better accuracy or recoil control. Some of them, though, oddly don't do anything. They're just there to research. The multiplayer is definitely well done in I, with a plethora of things for you to do with your friends, including a campaign, party game modes, and the ability to go back into previous maps in sort of an open world area and complete side missions. Now, your character will be able to gain XP and bruise-offs through all of these, except for the party games game mode, where you have things like team deathmatch and stuff like that. There's like a team deathmatch and a battle royale. But it's also cool because it adds a bit of a meta aspect to the game, because when you complete it and you're going with your friends, you'll see in the area where you can select which mission you want to go back to so you can do the side quests, some doors will only open when the game's internal timer is set to either a specific time or a specific date. This adds a lot more replayability because there are 3 endings in the game, along with a 4th hidden true ending. Now, I wasn't able to get that much footage of multiplayer, as most of the time when I would be on and I'd look through the server list, nobody would be on. But I did get some footage of me playing with these 3 other guys. They said they were revisiting the game after 8 years, which is pretty crazy. But they were cool. We ran around and did a mission, and after we were done, they got off. They seemed to be pretty low level, because we were in the first area, which will be there at around level 3 or 4. But on my character, I was like level 28. So I was just like walking ahead of them and tanking all the bullets while they killed everything. But it's nice to see that some people, even though it's a game that they don't play often, it's still a game that just has such a unique atmosphere and a unique feel, but it's just so easy to jump into that people will always come back for that just unique Divine Cybermancy experience. You don't get it anywhere else. You really don't. I'd also like to point out that the campaign is seamless. The whole campaign is seamless. You can play it with anyone. You can play it with up to 16 other people. And there's no level cap or money cap. So you can grind as much as you want. If you really want to become that like tankiest of all tanks, if you want to be the best shooter, if you want to be a psionic wizard, then you can grind and reach that level. It's just all up to the amount of time you want to put in. And then you can come back and play with lower level people and help them out, carry them up, get them through the story and stuff, and seeing what else the game has to offer. Now that we've talked on the gameplay, let's move over to the story with spoilers. So if you haven't played this game, I highly recommend doing that before listening to this part, as the game is extremely fun for your first time and is usually only $15 or less. Also, some things here might be a bit patchy since the game is translated a little wonky from French, and finding info is a bit hard since this came out in... Well, actually, when did this come out again? Oh, 2011. So I's story begins in this universe's version of the 1800s, because while we were spending our time fighting like this, the humans in their universe were starting to first discover psionic abilities and how to use them in battle. By the time the 1970s came by, almost every average citizen has access to psi abilities of varying power, and only 15 years later, our game begins with humanity becoming scattered among multiple planets, and now in a cyberpunk age where most people live in hive cities with skies blocked out with endless skyscrapers. So as you know, humanity is at war with MSF, or Metastronomic Force, which is a chaotic, psychic realm born from humanity's sins like greed and war. At this point in the game, you'll know that the MSF's main goal is just to balance the universe's energies, so to speak. So when humanity starts just one too many wars, they balance the scales, but more or less, by sending a huge wave of demons through portals to wipe them out in an attempt to lessen humanity's psionic energy. For example, the Carnophage, a common MSF enemy, shown here, is only sent as a manifestation of guilt, something very prevalent in the game's story. Think of it almost like the universe is a body, and the MSF sends these demons to cleanse the virus, which it sees as humanity. So we start the game in a dreamlike area where a body lays next to a portal. Our character states that it's true that he has murdered his mentor, and yet he is not his killer. We continue through the portal, kill some looters, and make our way back to our temple HQ, where all of our faction's members train and talk amongst each other. We then are instructed by our own little servitor-esque robot to speak to our leader, Commander Romana, for an update on what's next in our hunt for the artifacts that I covet so much. When we're in the temple, we can talk to many different people, but one stands out to me, and that's Dutch. Because in the intro mission near the end, Dutch says that he'll stay behind to cover our escape, and supposedly dies. Interesting, but we'll get to that later. We can also speak to our mentor, who thinks that Romana is trying to take over I with the artifact. The first few missions are admittedly boring, errand running, etc. tasks, where you do things like search for a corrupt cop, or infiltrate a small band of looters, but they're all leading us towards one thing, the artifact. The first time you really get close to the artifact is in the Vendico facility, which was conducting a mining operation to try and retrieve it, but in turn, they activated it, which created a portal straight to the MSF, which is who ambushes you and Dutch in the first mission. Fun fact, Dutch can actually die in this mission too if you don't defend him well enough, and it still lets you complete the mission as if nothing happened. We can also find 3 Cynicles? I think Cynicles. To find, which show that we may not actually be on the good side of this war. Humanity may actually be the aggressors in the conflict between the MSF. So you may be wondering, why can Dutch keep coming back? Is he just a clone? Something we're hallucinating, or a ghost? Well, while it is true that he isn't real, he's not the only thing that isn't. If we go back to the intro mission, you can find corpses of other I members showing that a team was sent in. Your team. And that they had died, and us along with them. The entire experience we're having is a fake manifestation of our own guilt towards getting our members killed. Remember how our character was able to murder his own mentor and yet not kill him? It's because our mentor was one of the people on that mission we chose to go to. But as far as the lore suggests, we'll get into the actual canon mission that Dutch died in during this next bit. In the next mission, we go down to Mars with Dutch to try and locate the artifact and return it to I. And they're really letting us bring out the big guns for this one. Everyone here is an enemy, and we can see how desperate things are with our only outpost being hidden in the rubble of a blown out temple. Unfortunately, during the beginning of this mission, Dutch dies during a small skirmish battle, and that is his true death, where he's meant to die in every single playthrough. But, while acquiring the artifact, we can go down one of 3 paths with who to side with. We can either side with Romana, our mentor, or become a double agent for the Federation. For this video, we'll be talking about the path where we side with our mentor. After acquiring the artifact, Romana destroys the Jianqi-di temple, which was on Mars, as the monks inside were the only ones he thought were powerful enough to stop him from deserting I and ascending to godhood through the artifact. When we see Romana betraying us at the end of the mission, it is actually just our own character manifesting ourselves as Romana to push the blame of our greed to search after the artifact, which killed our entire team, onto something other than ourselves. This further emphasizes the fact that whatever our character did before dying and losing his memory was so bad that we are doing everything to forget and push the blame of it onto something else. In the final mission, we return to the DEI temple where I is located to kill Romana, who is taking control of I's forces, and as we make our way through the temple, cutting down all of our former allies, we finally reach Romana, and with reason being obsolete, we are forced to kill him. After killing Romana, we are teleported back to the beginning of the temple, where all our allies are back and act as if nothing ever happened. But why? How come they can't remember what just occurred? Well, as it turns out, the final mission never actually happened, and we find out that we, the player, were Romana the entire time, and the final act of pushing through the temple to kill ourselves in a grand show of redemption, fighting against our own lust for power within the artifact, which led us to getting our entire squad and mentor killed in the beginning of the game. thus starting the cycle of guilt, was just another way of cycling the blame of our mistakes onto a manifestation other than ourselves. So with our character getting his final revenge on the one thing that destroyed him, we finish the game. But not totally, as we can then begin a new cycle of guilt, repeating forever. Out of all the cyberpunk games we've gotten recently, from games like Cyberpunk 2077 to Turbo Overkill, I Divine Cybermancy stands out a cut different from the rest, where the others go for a more amped up version of a dystopian future with bright lights and flashy cars and augments that turn people into walking machines. I decided to go for a dark, gritty, dirty feel with low-tone lights, Lovecraftian horrors waiting behind the next corner, and shady deals made between organizations with no real face, all vying for godlike power. It decided to take a made-and-done genre and redefine it. And although there are some plot holes here and there, and figuring out the story takes a bit more work than the average player is willing to do, I still believe this is a true artistic vision brought to life, and I hope that others will one day look to this game for inspiration for their own games. Well, that's all I have regarding I Divine Cybermancy. Truly a diamond in the rough with just a little rough left on it. But if you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like or subscribe. And if you have any questions or games to recommend me to check out, just let me know. I'll be looking in the comments, as I'm always looking for strange games to play. And until then, I'll just be sleeping in my mind prison.